Hi, it's Peggy at Headshots by Peggy, and I'm here with John SWANBECK for Camera Tips for Actors.
Camera tips for actors.
And you brought up a really good point, John. You said we do this segment every month and we titled it Camera Tips for Actors, but sometimes we don't always talk about camera tips for actors, but we give up tons of great tips. So today we're going to try to stay on track, but you know us, we may go who knows where.
You never know where we're going to go.
Never know.
Well, I have learned two things, first of all, that aren't actual tips. So here's where we're going to go off on our tangent and never get back to tips. I've learned two things about the business in the past week that I find really interesting. And they point to things actors should be thinking regarding their work on camera. One is, and we all sort of knew this anyway, but now it's sort of becoming talked about in an official way, which is movie theaters are going away.
Right.
There's sort of they're kind of like a luxury, like something you do like a special event. But a lot of people see no reason to go to the movie theaters when they can just be on the couch and streaming something. Hang on, I think I have an airplane going overhead.
Hold for plane.
Hold for plane. Hold for plane. Holding for plane. So actors need to realize, since we've all sort of moved over to a streaming experience where we view our content, things are much more in a close-up than they've ever been before, because a lot of people are looking at things on phones or tablets at most, but at phones most of the time. And studios, production companies, they actually push directors to create in close-ups because we're all looking at a little screen. So a wide shot doesn't even make sense most of the time. So actors are just going to need, if they're not already thinking about the close-up, they're going to need to think about that. The other thing, which is really interesting, is because of COVID, this isn't so much the case on smaller productions, but anything that's sort of profile production, bigger budget production, the kind of productions that a lot of actors really want to book, they are only allowing 3 minutes of filming time per person at a time. So you'll come onto the set and everyone has their mask on, and they'll set up a scene, and then they'll say, all right, masks off. Everyone takes their masks off. They shoot the scene in 3 minutes, then mask back on, and the actor goes away. Mm-hmm. So they're doing fewer takes, and they're looking for actors who can get it right in one take. Depending on the length of the scene, maybe 2 takes, but even if you're doing 2 takes, they're saying masks off, action, cut, action, cut, action, cut, masks on, go. There's no sort of time to indulge for the actor. You have to be able to hit your mark, deliver, hit your mark, deliver, hit your mark, deliver. I thought that was really, really interesting, because they're going to start. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. What I had heard is part of the struggles that casting directors are coming across is that because it's self-tapes, actors, maybe you don't know, maybe it took them 30 takes to get that, and then they book them, and then they get on set and they can't deliver, and that's the kind of thing they're trying to figure out a little bit now, is how to, and maybe that'll be with the follow-up Zoom call so they can kind of see, what they look like on the spot. I don't know what they're going to do, but maybe they'll be a lot more Zoom callbacks where they're seeing things, especially for bigger productions when they've got to keep things moving. They got so many people and they've got to keep lots and lots of things moving. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think
So
that's interesting. I think you're right. I think they'll be doing a lot more Zoom callbacks. Um, but then when they're looking at self tapes, even they are going to be much stricter about who knows how to move in the camera and not move in the camera. Who knows how to deliver a scene without having a lot of extraneous movement that
mhm.
doesn't have to end up on the cutting room floor, which they were always looking at anyway, but they're being stricter about it now. Um, so yeah, as much as actors love the whole process of having their performance pulled out of them on set and working with the other actors, that's all gone. That's all going away.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about it all the time, holding still and not, because when the editor's working on that and you're just doing these weird movements, they can't edit it. They're needing to edit really tight now because they don't have, so many takes to edit from. So these are all really, really good things to be thinking about, because I mean, 2 years ago when Bill Duke was on the show, he said, we're not in, TV business, we're in the media business. And talk about, it was true 2 years ago, but talk about how true it is now. I mean, you're not in the movie business, we're not in the film industry. This is a media industry so deeply now. I love going to the theaters. We used to go all the time to the theater. The experience of a theater is different than, even if you have a 78 or whatever, the huge TV. It's still different in a theater. It's the atmosphere, it's the smell of the popcorn, it's the whole thing. And that may never really come back. Or like you said, it may be something like it's a treat, like you go a couple times a year. It's not going to be like, we used to go all the time because we had that $20 thing or whatever, and we go to the movie all the time, that Thursday morning movies, or whatever. It didn't have to be a date night.
Right.
And I think that's probably never going to happen again. And
Yeah.
so we really need to, as actors, as filmmakers, really get our mindset on media, because that's what people are using. And I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's really important. And I think people need to start shifting their mindset on looking good on camera for media, because it's a totally different format. It's a different way of perceiving things.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Um, okay, so I'm going to put some tips on the table, or in the frame, if you will. You can tell me if any of them work for you.
All right.
Okay, just as a warm up, um, this is not necessarily a tip like if you do this, you'll get this. It's a warm up, so it's like an appetizer, but
Okay.
it's still philosophically interesting, um, and it talks about the film frame, which is my thing.
Uh-huh.
The film frame is the only place in your life where you can be completely honest and get away with it. That
I
was
like it, because we talk about all the time that the camera, you can't lie to a camera. You can lie to me, you can lie to your friend, you can lie to your mom, but you can't lie to the camera, because it picks up those, it's like it picks up your thoughts. That's why when I'm doing headshots, or when I'm doing, self tapes, I'm like, get into character, bring your essence, so that your emotions and everything are present, because that camera is going to pick that up. That's really good.
And also in life, if I'm completely honest with you and tell you what I think of that dress you're wearing, that could get me into trouble. But in the film frame, we want the honesty.
We want the honesty, because that's what makes it fun. Because sometimes, I mean, this is how human nature is. You smile and you say something, but you can see that you're not saying what you're saying. And if you aren't able to portray that in on screen, then it's a flat performance. Then all you see is, yes, that looks nice on you. Not, yeah, that looks nice on you. You know, you want to see that that you're really not agreeing with the words you're saying, basically, sometimes. And sometimes the honesty and the purity of when you are 100% agreeing with your words, and the camera catches that. And I think that's, we always say that you can't lie to the camera, and I think that's kind of the thing, is letting the camera pick up those emotions really brings an exciting, it makes you want to watch, it makes you want to see, it makes you feel what that person's feeling.
The second one here, again, it's just an appetizer. It's more philosophical, but it got a lot of applause, if you will, on when I published it on social media. All those feelings you work so hard to get past in life: the fear, the hurt, the guilt, the regret, the jealousy, the loneliness, the rage. The camera loves those.
Same principle, exactly.
So here we are spending all of this time in life we go to therapy, we do all of these self-help things to get past all of these negative feelings we have. The problem is, for actors, it's their bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly.
So stop going to therapy is the advice.
When our 16-year-old was 12, they went to acting class with Billy Cowart, and Billy Cowart is he's very much into the intellectual psychiatry end of it. And I said, this is the best therapy session that I could send them to. Like, it's better than going, this acting class was better, because getting in touch with those things and not burying them, not getting rid of them, but identifying them and knowing when they're valuable to use and when they need to be put on the shelf to behave.
Right. For child actors, I think it's easier to access those emotions. As adults, we tend to have buried them somehow.
We've buried them and put a lock and key and
right.
put other boxes on top of them. And
Right. But,
am I just talking about myself?
Yeah, you're revealing a lot, Peggy.
Yeah, I know. I think I got a little too personal.
Okay, so I'm going to get into a tip. We'll go from appetizer to more tips, more main course. This one, a lot of people liked on social media, and I find it really interesting. Spend less time trying to make it real and more time believing it already is. So that points to the actor's process, which is all about making it real. And actors spend a lot of time trying to make something real, and the process for them is about making it real. And what I'm always trying to get them to embrace is imagining it already is real versus trying to make it real. And it requires using the imagination, which I believe not a lot of actors really use. But they can spend a lot of time trying to make something real, and usually what happens is because they're taught to make it feel real to them, and so that when it feels real to them, they're done. And then you look at their work on camera, and what felt real to them ends up looking real boring on camera, because their job for them was to make it feel real, and they weren't concerned with making it believable by imagining it already is and believing it already is. The other thing I always like to say is, when did make believe become make it real? Creating used to be about make believe, and now it's about make it real. And there's nothing wrong with making it real, of course. That's a tenet of the actor's process, but that's the big thing they're focused on. And so, like I said, they will end up making it feel real to them, and it'll end up being real boring on camera. I've been trying to get actors to understand lately that they need to also create from the camera's perspective. When I'm working with an actor, I'll say to them, break down your creative thinking for me. What are you thinking? What are you playing? What are you feeling? They'll talk. They'll have a lot of ideas. They'll talk. And then I'll follow it up with, now, tell me what the camera needs to see, or tell me what the audience needs to see. And they're completely stumped because they didn't think about what the camera needs to see and what the audience needs to see, because their process teaches them your process is the thing, and you go through that. And once you go through that, everything's going to somehow magically end up on camera. And we talk about this all the time, or the director is going to come along and wave her magic wand or his magic wand and make it work on camera. That's the biggest disconnect on camera, is just going through your actor's process will end up making it work on camera, or the director is going to come along and do that for you. So I'm not saying don't make it real. I'm just saying there's another half of the equation.
I like it. So would you say it's kind of like if people that are into like vision boards or whatever, they like really like get their mindset into what it would be like to have this already happening. So, you kind of, when you're an actor, you kind of get that mindset, not how would it feel, but this is how it feels. I am here and this is how it feels, versus how would it feel if this character, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I was working with someone recently, and it was an audition, and the audition, said basically, in this scene, the character is terrified. And I was trying to get the actor, to create terrified. And the actor was having a hard time creating terrified. The actor said to me, "Oh, I always have a hard time playing terrified, or because it just feels like I'm manufacturing something." And that goes back to what I just said, which is, it's not that you're manufacturing something, it's that you're imagining something.
Exactly.
And we imagine it, and so then we step into what we imagine.
And then it's real. Then you are terrified. It's not what it would be if you were terrified. You experience that emotion.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's like 1 degree off, but it's a huge degree off, It's like,
well, actors have no idea how big that idea is. They have no idea how big that is. Directors are looking for an actor to come in and show them the movie, show them what the movie would be like. And that's where the imagination comes in, and believing it, and then stepping into what you believe. And actors are either taught, like I said, their process is going to end up making everything work on camera, or the director's going to do it. Neither of those two things are true.
yep.
And I can tell them I can guarantee it's not true, because nowhere in their process of their acting classes has anyone ever talked about this. They usually just say, try to make it real, connect with the material, and other things, and then it'll work. It's absolutely the biggest disconnect between what actors are trying to do, what the audience needs, what directors are trying to do, what the camera needs. Can I share another one with you?
Go for it.
Okay. This is absolutely a tip, and one of the biggies on camera. On camera, what's going on in your mind is more important than what's coming out of your mouth. And I think everybody can understand that. It's what you're thinking that's more important than what you're saying. Fortunately,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? You just go, oh my God, that's really, really true. I mean, this from a headshot photographer standpoint.
That's why I always say, if you're in my studio and all you're thinking is, I've got to get a good headshot. I got to get a good headshot. This has to work for me. This has to be, this headshot has to pop, this blah, 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 blah. Then you're getting a flat headshot. It's not going to pop, and it's not going to work for you. You have to, in your head, be in that character, because that's what the camera captures. And we that was kind of part of the tip you gave earlier too, the teaser tip. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And like I'll always say to actors, okay, close your eyes. Whether you actually do it or not doesn't matter. Close your eyes and think of whatever you're streaming right now on whatever TV show or movie you're streaming right now. And now, uh, tell me some of the lines of dialogue from it, and nobody can. Talk to me about the character and what the camera's capturing. They could talk about that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
My character's very mysterious. My character's dangerous. My character's up to something. My character's in love with the other character. That's all thinking versus talking. And they can never tell me what we can all remember famous lines of dialogue, but there are so few famous lines of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
We don't remember the dialogue. And I'm not saying anything about the writing. The writing is, as we all know, it all comes from the writing. I'm just saying on camera, it's about capturing what the character's thinking or feeling. And the reason it's a tip for actors is because they don't do that. And they're doing a lot of self-tapes these days, and because their process teaches them it's about getting the scene right and what you do with the scene and making the choices with the scene and how you deliver the material. And it's not that at all on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting on these self-tapes and they're getting the scene right and playing the dialogue right and taking care of the scene, and they end up being flat on camera because
Exactly.
they're not creating what's going on in the mind or what's going on in the heart. Even they're not creating the unspoken. And writers would actually want actors to do that. Writers know in order for their work to work on camera, that's the part of the equation actors bring to the room. So if they're involved in the casting process, they're looking for actors who do that. It's one of the easiest ways to get called back ahead of everybody else, to get the job ahead of everyone else, because most of the people submitting self-tapes out there are not thinking about that because the acting process doesn't do it.
And every actor has heard, when you walk into the casting room or now self-tape, you're supposed to look like your headshot. And I've said it over and over. Yes, you want to, maybe have the same hair, the same style of clothes, but what they mean by look like your headshot is have that same power, that same emotion in your headshot that made that headshot pop. That same emotion should come out in the self-tape. Because if you were like, you had this headshot that was like, yes, I'm that doctor, and then you did a self-tape and you were like disconnected, worrying, thinking about memorizing your lines, worrying about the lights, worrying about the background, and you delivered your lines, you're not going to pop like your headshot did because you're thinking about other things instead of being in the emergency room delivering your lines like you're supposed to be. That's
I think
I
you're absolutely right. Really well put. A point really well taken. And it's not even about worrying about lights or anything. It's you walk into a room and you're all distracted by I have to say hello and I have to be nice and I want to make sure they see that I'm a nice person and all these things. And exactly what you just said, the character goes out the window. I knew this actress not too long ago. She had this great headshot. So she was up against a wall. She had jeans and a t-shirt on, had this really sort of cool look to her. And the headshot was sort of something along the lines of, I won't do it justice or her justice, but it was along the lines of,
yeah.
that was the headshot, right? So wherever her and her agent sent out this headshot, she got called in, she got an audition, Every time she sent it out, she got asked to do a self-tape or do an audition. She never got a call back because she would walk in the room and I said to her, what are you doing? And she, and so it turned out she would be walking in the room. She'd go from this and she'd walk in the room and go, hi, I'm John and how you doing? And I'm,
Yeah,
glad to be here and blah, 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 blah. And they did exactly what you just said, which is she doesn't look like the headshot.
exactly.
Same color hair, same type of clothing. She doesn't come across like the headshot.
Yeah, looking like your headshot is letting the camera see the emotion they saw in the headshot. Let them see that in the self-tape. Let them see that in the audition, and that's really important.
Yeah, I have been telling actors lately, and if they're working with someone like you're you're going to get this for them, but they should be thinking like this anyway, which is you want a headshot that looks like a movie still. It looks like a still from a movie, a still photograph from a movie.
Mm-hmm. You're doing something, you're saying something, you're about something. You're not just, there's a purpose to you. There's something deeper than your smile. There's something deeper than your external features.
That's really well put. It's like you're in a story or you're living a story versus just smiling.
Yeah.
Plug in my computer. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to share another one. I think I have one more here, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is the main event. This is the one I was building up to with all the appetizers and everything. And I just published it a few days ago. I've been cracking up ever since. This got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments from the different groups I'm in. I published it a couple days ago. The comments are still coming in. And the quote is, "The most interesting way to play anger on camera is to direct it at yourself." And this is really interesting to me because I got all kinds of quotes about how actors can create anger, the nature of anger, why human beings get angry. A lot of people had jokes about, what makes them angry. But just like I said, they're still coming in. Most of the quotes had to do with actors talking about the nature of anger or how they get there with their actor's process, or a lot of philosophizing from actors about anger. And I thought it was interesting because I've always said there's two emotions that actors want to play more than any others. They want to be able to cry, and they want to be angry. Those are the two. They really feel like actors if they can cry or if they're angry. A lot of actors, actually, as we know, have difficulty crying, like genuine tears on the spot when it's needed. I don't hold that against them. I don't have a problem with that at all. I know that we have whatever that solution is they use on sets to get people to actually shed tears. And people use that. I don't have a problem with that at all because we're trying to make the audience believe something. It's more important the audience believe it, as we were talking about earlier, than that the actor feels it. Much more important, of course. Who are we doing this for? But also, I have to. I want to challenge everyone who's watching. When you're watching somebody on camera cry next time, most of the time, you're going to see somebody who's very believable crying and shedding no tears. They look like they're crying, they sound like they're crying, and I'm not talking about because they cover up their face is exposed, we can see it, we actually think they're crying. But I've been analyzing this one particular topic lately. And I started analyzing it because recently I was watching episodes of Downton Abbey, because somebody was auditioning for a project that was considered to be a period piece, and the producers said, think of Downton Abbey. So I was working with the person, so I watched a couple of episodes, and they happened to have people crying in them. And I realized nobody was shedding tears. They were crying, it was believable, it was moving, nobody was shedding tears. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I'll bet your actors that in many, many cases, they're going to see someone crying on film and television, and the person's not actually going to be shedding tears, but you'll completely believe that they're crying because they're making us believe it. They're going back to what you and I were just talking about with regards to imagining it's happening, and then the audience will imagine it too. So I find very difficult for an actor to just cry on the spot like that. Most actors, but they can still act. They can still act as if they're crying, and we will believe they're crying even if there are no tears. And that's just really interesting to me.
That is interesting, and I feel like crying and anger, those are all emotions that we can all relate to. And when you said direct anger at yourself, it made me think, when I'm really angry at something or at someone, normally I'm angry at myself. Either I'm angry for letting them in a place in my life that they could make me angry, or, but bottom line, on some level, that's who I'm angry with. I'm not angry at you because you did this. I'm angry at me because I allowed you in my circle, So I think, I don't know, maybe this is Peggy's therapy hour here. I don't know. I'm exposing things, but I feel like maybe I'm not alone in that. And so that's probably why that works so well, because that is a true anger versus you're just bursting out. You're angry really at yourself because this person hurt you or because the situation happened.
Right.
That makes logical sense to me, because I know that's the case for me. If I'm angry, bottom line, when it's all said and done, when the smoke clears, the person that I was really angry at was me on whichever level.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's say that you and I are dating and you cheat on me with somebody else. I'm going to yell at you, but I'm going to be kicking myself that I allowed myself to get into the position where you could hurt me.
Exactly.
Is what you were just saying.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And although I think there is some anger where I do think that's what makes anger interesting in general. And I do think it's very human to experience anger in that way. But whether it's anger because I feel angry about myself or it's entirely directed at you, although I think it's more the former than the latter.
Mm-hmm.
What I was talking about when I published this quote, and this is why it kind of amuses me, although everyone wrote very interesting things, is nobody got what I was talking about. What I'm saying, what's the most interesting way to play anger on camera is to direct it at yourself. And what I'm saying, although I believe what you and I just said about anger, no matter what is the anger, how it was created, where it came from, on camera, the most interesting way to play it is to direct it this way because everything on camera is about going inward. It's about going this way. It's about pulling the audience into the film frame. So I could not have been more clear with my quote, literally. The most interesting way, and I didn't say the only way to play anger on camera, I said the most interesting way to play anger on camera is to direct it yourself. And we can talk about the nature of anger and how human beings experience anger, but on camera, the way to play anything, the most interesting way to play anything is to direct it at yourself. Because
Absolutely.
the camera is about going inward. It's about you know, it's about reading your heart, your mind, and your soul. Theater is about going out. Film is about going in. It's about trying to pull the audience into the film frame and hold
Pulling
them
them in, letting them feel what you're feeling and, drawing you in. Yeah,
right.
I
So,
agree.
as what I like to do, what I consider myself an expert at, is taking everything everyone's doing and trying to talk to people about how it works on camera. Because the actor's process, as we were talking about earlier, it's not designed to work on camera, and directors aren't going to make it work on camera. So I've sort of maybe that's my other Clubhouse show, The Secrets to
Yeah.
the secret. It's too long a title. The Secrets to Making the Actor's Process Work on Camera. Way too long. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm trying to come up with the secrets to make it work on camera. But that's what I was talking about. So we could have debates about anger all we want, but what I'm saying is when you're done and you're ready to deliver it, you want to deliver it inwardly. And that'll be more interesting for the camera than delivering it outwardly at the other person.
Well, as always, John, you're brilliant. And I love that the way you look at things and state the obvious, but it's always brilliant and it's always for some reason, things that aren't ever talked about. So I enjoy our time doing that. And I'm glad you mentioned Clubhouse, because I am on Clubhouse. I got John talked into joining, and he's on Clubhouse. So that is a phenomenal place to hang out and chat with us. I'll leave your Clubhouse handle in the description below. And we would love for you guys to follow us on Clubhouse and find our rooms, and hopefully my new club. I'm working really hard to get a club, but right now I have regular rooms, so whatever. But we do have some really good discussions, kind of like this, but live.
And with a lot of really interesting people. Yes, Peggy's rooms are terrific. When you see them, join them. Terrific.
So John is going to be opening his first room really soon. So make sure you follow him. And click the little bell so you get notified when he starts opening rooms, and come hang out with us when we're doing it. So, well, John, I think we did it today. I think you just took the hammer and nailed it in all the way. That was really, really good. That was some good stuff.
Good, I'm glad.
I know that all of you guys enjoyed it. So please make sure you share it all over the place. Leave us tons of comments, and feel free, I think I forgot to remind you last time, but feel free to leave questions for John. And when we get a handful of questions, we'll do another episode that's a Q&A. But meanwhile, share this with everyone, leave comments, and most importantly, have an amazing week. I'll see you next week. Text or call today so that we can get you effective headshots that you can use as part of your marketing strategy. Headshots by Peggy, how can I help you?